In the smartphone world, it's easy to go for the obvious top dog, usually made by Apple or Samsung. But what if there's an alternative from a brand you're not all that familiar with? That's what the Honor Magic 6 Pro is. It's a proper flagship phone in so many ways, but it costs less than the big names. So, how does it compare to the de facto Android choice, the Galaxy S24 Ultra? I'm Cam Bunton from Pocket-lint, and in this video I'll tell you. Now, it's hard to imagine two phones being more different in terms of aesthetics and design philosophy than Samsung and Honor, at least when it comes to these two phones. Where Samsung has gone with a very minimalist design language that's very utilitarian, Honor has done the opposite. Samsung's cameras are all neatly placed in their own little individual rings, where the Honor has this massive island on the back that's designed to catch your attention with its angled, polished edges. And then there's the shaping. Samsung has flat edges at the top and the bottom and completely right-angled corners around all four sides. Honor again has done the opposite. It's curved around the edges on the front and the back, and even features some subtle curving around the corners and along the top and the bottom. And the aim to make this shape that's as comfortable to hold as it can be, which matters in a phone that's this big. Samsung's right-angled corners can be quite sharp and a little uncomfortable at times. However, what I found since using both full-time is that wide flat display is far easier to type on and seems more precise and responsive. I've had a number of times where the keyboard button presses weren't recognised on the Honor, resulting in missed letters and spaces, making typing quite challenging, or at least typing quickly. As for size and weight, they're both roughly the same. Honor's phone is slightly taller and thicker, but is narrower, and has those curves to make it feel more nimble in the hand. Surprisingly so, in fact. Going from one to the other, the Samsung definitely feels wider. Both are water and dust resistant to the same high level, at IP68, so if you drop it in water or get caught in the rain, it should be fine. Depending on which colour you go for, you'll get glass or imitation plastic-based leather on the back of the Honor, but interestingly, both of them laud their durability. Honor's glass has been drop tested on a number of different materials, and the Gorilla Glass armour on the Samsung is similar in that it's designed to be tough to scratch and break, so in short, neither phone is fragile. And neither phone is going to short out in a rainstorm. Now, I've mentioned in previous videos how highly I rate the Samsung Galaxy display, not just because it's sharp, bright and vibrant, but because it's got this amazing anti-reflective surface on the outside. It stops excessive amounts of reflection from covering the screen and makes it easier to see in any condition. Indoors or outdoors, if there's a bright light source, it won't bother you as much. That's not to say I had any real trouble with the Honor display. It makes up for that lack of anti-reflective surface by being super bright. It seems this is where so many Android manufacturers are now laying markers down: peak brightness. With 5000 nits peak, it's one of the brightest on the market, and it means that content should cut through most reflections on the display without too much trouble. When watching video, there are some key differences in how the two phones process colour and contrast. Similar to the iPhone, I found the processing from the Honor's display to be more natural in terms of texture and highlights and contrast. Samsung tends to make those things a little cool and boost the contrast so dark parts of the videos look a bit crushed and lack in texture, almost having this over-sharpened look to it. Honor's display has a slightly warmer, golden, softer tone, which adds to that feeling of being natural. Both give you the ability to tweak colour settings and switch to even more natural modes, which mute colours a little bit more. And as for sharpness, again, there's not a huge amount in this. It's 1440p on Samsung versus 1280p on the Honor, which on a panel that's under 7 inches means pin-sharp resolution on both. To the point where Samsung's display is actually set to a lower resolution by default and still looks plenty sharp enough, unless you look really closely. If I had to pick a winner on just displays, Samsung does it, and purely for that anti-reflective quality and the fact that it's completely flat. Curves do add a little bit of distortion at the edges, so makes viewing a tiny bit less perfect. Both had different takes on software too, and it's safe to say Honor's Magic OS has taken some inspiration from iPhone, with the horizontal standby screen feature and the way lock screen customization choices have been offered up. Samsung has S Pen and all the features added by having that, including marking up screenshots, filling in forms, and even as a shortcut for the camera. Both also use AI, but in different ways, with Samsung focusing on translation, notes and photo edits. Honor has a video editor feature in the Gallery app that'll create highlights, and has attempted to make it work more seamlessly with tablets and laptops. I could dive a lot deeper in here, but to keep things concise, let's move on. So general performance, and I'll keep this relatively short because both phones are powered by the same processor. It's the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which is really fast, really smooth and efficient. Playing the same games, launching the same apps, I felt the two phones were very evenly matched. High frame rates are handled with ease so that if you're playing any games that require fast reflexes, neither phone struggles at all, even over longer periods when you get into the 30 minutes plus phase. They might not have the longevity of a ROG phone, but they're good enough. So let's talk battery and charging, because this is one area of performance that the Honor does have an advantage. One reason for that is the 5600 mAh battery inside, which is bigger than the Galaxy's 5000. But also, Honor's Magic OS 8 seems to be really well optimized. With my own fairly moderate usage, the Honor is a 2-day phone. I can charge it overnight, either wired or wirelessly, use about 3 hours of screen time a day mixed between social media, YouTube, gaming and web browsing, with maybe a few photos and videos thrown in on the camera, and still not need to charge it until the end of the next day. Now Samsung's isn't far off that, but I'd usually get to mid-afternoon on the second day with Samsung and feel like I needed to plug it in as it entered that red 19% mark. And when they do need refilling, the Honor fills up faster thanks to support for 80-watt speeds, refilling an empty cell in around 40 minutes. Samsung's 45-watt max is still pretty quick, but takes over an hour. As phones get better and better, so do their cameras. A lot of it is down to processing and algorithms done internally, but having good hardware helps too. Both phones have strong lineups of lenses and sensors here, with a main ultra-wide and zoom camera. The most obvious difference is the zoom. Samsung's 5x optical zoom means you can zoom in just that bit further and still retain sharpness and detail, compared to the 2.5x zoom on the Honor. Still, even if you zoom to 5x on the Honor, you can still easily get sharp, good-looking shots. It's only when you push past that you get ropey photos. As a whole, looking across all the lenses, Samsung's approach also seems to overexpose a little, so highlighted parts of the images are really bright, and they start to lose detail and colour a bit, where Honor's approach is to even those highlights out. Honor seems to crank up saturation in blue skies though even more than Samsung typically does, making them seem really unrealistic. It also doesn't help with how Honor processes details on its zoom and ultra-wide cameras in particular. Looking closely at the results, the Samsung cameras seem to over-sharpen, but Honor's do the opposite. On the second and third cameras, looking at details in the background like the grassy fields or towards the edges like on a stone wall, it's almost like Honor's processing fills in an estimation of detail, removing some of the texture so it almost looks like it's been painted on. And this was even more obvious at nighttime or in low light. It gives photos a weird artificial look that just doesn't look quite right. Backgrounds and edges being over-smoothed isn't a great look, but Samsung's over-sharpening isn't either. It's a similar story with selfies, where Honor's look is better for these because images look smoother and more natural. Honor's photos generally look warmer too, and that's a look that extends to video, and I think works better for that medium. At nighttime, Honor seems to have the advantage of what you want is as much light as possible drawn from night mode shots. In the right situation and with the main camera, you can snap a shot and it'll quickly capture and manage to draw in enough light to show the stars in the sky. Samsung didn't always pull in the same amount of light from the shadowed and the dark areas, and so images have that same contrasty over-sharpened look that you get in daytime. Honor's also keeps that warm light look, where Samsung sometimes cleans that up and makes it cooler, which I don't think you particularly want at nighttime. With that said, once you switch to the ultra-wide and the zoom, the Samsung's is a stronger system. The over-smoothing textures, as I've mentioned, gives a weird painting-like feel to the pictures. Now, they're both clearly strong camera systems, but I think the extra quality from the zoom and the ultra-wide lens on the Samsung means it's a more complete package for photography and videography. Now, it's clear when looking at these two phones that there are areas where it's impossible to separate them. Build and design is very much a personal preference thing, and speed and fluidity are very similar. I think on the whole, the S24 Ultra is the better buy. But there's not much in it. It really comes down to the more consistent camera experience and the anti-reflective flat display. Long-term software support doesn't harm it either, but although it is more expensive, I think the Samsung is the better overall phone. However, if you like the design of the Honor and want the fast charging and longer battery life, I don't think you'd be compromising all that much by buying it. Plus, it costs less. Let me know what you think in the comments, or you can get me on Threads. I'm at Cam Bunton. If you did like this video, please do leave a thumbs up, subscribe and tap that notification bell, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye for now.